For about a year,
Listen to this.
New Yorkers have reported hearing an eerie sound coming from the newly constructed building. They call it haunting, and it's got a lot of people talking. Rick Leventhal joins us now. So, Rick, you went down there. You did some investigative work. What did you learn?
Well, there's clearly a noise. It's not clear exactly where it's coming from. It can create a sound that some are calling eerie, haunting, even moaning. The whistling was first reported by the Tribeca Citizen on the day after Thanksgiving. A man who lives a couple blocks from the almost completed One World Trade Tower wrote a local paper and said he first heard the sound during Hurricane Sandy last year and assumed it would be eliminated when the building's framework was finished and the windows installed. Well, then last week in the middle of the night, the neighbor says the tower began whistling again with a slightly different two-toned cry, calling it unmistakable and very chilling. So here it is, and you can judge for yourself.
Like one of them is the mechanical mismatch
between
humans and electronics, right? So electronics are boxy and rigid, humans are curvy and soft. That's a mechanical mismatch problem. Well, a researcher at the University of Illinois, his name is Dr. Rogers. What he did is he founded a company and they started making electronic tattoos. So I'm wearing one here on my arm.
Do we have a camera to get a...
This is a developmental system made by MC10, and it has an antenna and some sensors embedded in it. And what we plan to do is work with them to advance a tattoo that could be used for authentication. Now, it may be true that 10 to 20-year-olds don't want to wear a watch on their wrist, but you can be sure that they'll be far more interested in wearing an electronic tattoo, if only to piss off their parents. That's something that you wear, but you could also imagine including authentication in just your daily habits. So I take a vitamin every morning. What if I could take vitamin authentication?
What?
Vitamin authentication. Look, I have one right here. Well, here, I'll let you hold it. Would you like to hold it?
I'll hold it.
Okay. So this...
You guys see it?
This pill has a small chip inside of it with a switch, and they power it up, and the switch goes on and off, and it creates an 18-bit ECG-like signal in your body, and essentially your entire body becomes your authentication token. Yes, this is true.
Okay, but...
Okay, so wait. So it's really true. So what this means is that becomes my first superpower. I really want this superpower. It means that my arms are like wires, my hands are like alligator clips when I touch my...
All right, well, stop playing.
phone, my computer, my door, my car, I'm authenticated in. First superpower. Like, I want that.
This is FDA cleared?
So here's the thing. This is not science fiction. This pill was actually made by a company called Proteus, and they've developed it for medical applications. That pill has been CE stamped and cleared by the FDA.
Does Google now know everything I do and everywhere I go? Because...
Folks, I usually think, I like to try to, I generally think that I push things to the limit whenever I'm trying to figure out what the psychopathic controllers of the world are going to do. Predatorial, parasitic, psychopathic, pedophilic. Multi-generational controllers are going to think of next, or they're, the people they have working for them to do their creativity for them. I kind of like to think that, I can fathom the extremes to which they'll go at any next step. But I like to also remain, reasonable and not jump to conclusions and get into far out ideas. And what I usually find in retrospect is that I grotesquely underestimated them with respect to just what extremes they will go to and the slick wickedness, the slick trickery. Slick trickery. That's a good word. That's my new word for the day. Slick trickery. Wicked slick trickery There we go. That they will go to. In my Act Now video, the one that has the face image that says Act Now, black, red background, black letters, Act Now. I said it might soon be too late for us, humanity, or at least for, I was trying to indicate, at least for some people in this incarnation, at least, on this planet, who are incarnated right now, to make anything like a movement towards true selfhood. Might soon be too late for that to happen, and the consequences of that may be further reaching than what is at first implied on the surface. And then a question was raised in response to that video. Why do you say it might soon be too late? So I created the video with the face image that says Act Now 2, the digit 2. And I tried to answer that question. I answered it to some extent, and I mentioned two things: microchipping and transhumanism. Now with this woman, what do we have going on? I proposed that, in trying to think like these creatures who run things, what might be their next step with this microchipping thing? Well, they got us used to microchipping our dogs, used to the idea. Not that everybody's run out and done it, but we kind of got used to the idea, and then what they pounce on is, the idea of, you can do this to your child now too. Now we have a microchip that we can implant into your newborn baby, so that in case it ever gets lost in life, we can bring it home. We can find it for you. We can save your child. If it ever gets lost in life, its salvation is at our hands. It's under our control. Well, I'm trying to think, what's the next step in this? In a push towards transhumanism, ultimately, dehumanizing, making humans what people are left after the depopulation agenda, turning them into, half machine that's completely controllable, and the other half remaining some very dehumanized human. That has, kind of like, as a whole picture, in a sense, to make it sound nice, superhuman characteristics, because it's like the perfect warrior, the perfect worker, the perfect slave. Okay? High productivity. Doesn't talk back to you. Totally controllable. Superior physical strength, perhaps. And has nothing left of anything that's going to move towards true selfhood, for God's sakes. I mean, that would be just pretty much wiped out when the final goal of the project. That would be just gone. It would not be human as we know it. The DNA would be altered out of the line of what we call, actual humanity. So, here's this woman proposing a solution to a problem that I didn't know existed. I was thinking next step might be, making it mandatory for infants to get a little microchip or something, or making it available in supermarkets for everybody to get it. Just some kind of a soft next step. But hey, there's a redoubled effort going on here. I pointed that out in Act Now number 2. A redoubled effort. What we have here is a little bit more than just another small step in that direction, but it's real slick. Notice how it's presented. It's twisted around a bit. It's called an electronic tattoo. I mean, I haven't noticed that a lot of parents are renting out, and getting their newborn babies microchipped. I could be wrong, but it's just my idea that maybe that idea and that whole trend, that the proposed trend, didn't catch on to the extent that it was hoped. So we have adults who don't really like the word microchipping, let's say, because they're not running out and getting it done for their babies. So we can't really target the babies now, see, and we can't really maybe. I'm just spitballing here, to use a word from that movie, A Few Good Men. I'm just spitballing, okay? But woo. So let's not use the word microchipping. Let's not target babies, and let's not target adults. Let's target teenagers, 10 to 20. And let's not call it microchipping. Let's call it something they like, such as, I don't know, what might it be? A tattoo? An electronic tattoo. Ooh. It kind of goes right along with all, walking around all day with your texting. Electronics, man, and tattoos. Combine those things together. Electronic tattoo. And how does she present this? She presents it as a solution to a problem that I did not know existed. Did you know that there existed a problem with what she called a mechanical mismatch? A mechanical, biological mismatch? As she said, electronics, mechanical things, they're hard and boxy, something like that. She said square and boxy, square and whatever. While biological organisms, flesh, are soft and curvy. So there's a mechanical mismatch. Not a biological mismatch, a mechanical mismatch. Like, we want to solve the problem on the side of mechanics. I mean, that's the important part here. That's where the emphasis is, and the mismatch. We've got to solve the problem. We've got to solve this mismatch, and she presents the solution. The proposed beginnings of a solution to this mismatch. And like I said, I didn't know there was a problem. Did you? Did you know there was a problem? I didn't know there was a problem. I didn't know there was a mismatch. Well, the solution is being offered to it. So anybody who likes the idea of the solution, anybody who kind of falls for this baloney, right, is going to automatically fall into step with the presupposition that there was a problem to be solved, because it's being offered as a solution. You might not focus on the idea that, oh, well, there must have been a problem that I just didn't hear about, but it comes with the whole idea of the product. That is a solution to a problem. A mechanical mismatch. Now, okay, let's solve the problem. This biological, mechanical, or biological electronic mismatch. Like the two don't go together, right? So we have to find a way to make them go together, to form a synthesis of the two, as though there was a problem awaiting all this time for someone to come along and solve along these lines. So what's the solution? Think of the transhumanist agenda. A mechanical, electronic, partial flesh, totally controlled, brainwave controlled, everything controlled. Remotely controlled. With all the separate units tied together into a central control. Well, that's the solution to a mechanical mismatch, right? It's just like these people to create a scenario in which there is perceived to be a problem. They actually create the idea of the problem one way or another. not admitting to the fact that that's exactly what they're doing as step one, and then present a solution. And as long as people accept the idea that there is a problem, or cry out for a solution, or accept that the solution, or at least don't object too much, or it's getting to the point where even objecting isn't going to help. But, anybody who wants to carry out their little sneaky, sleazy plans in secret isn't going to admit to the idea that they're presenting this to you to control you. So they still go on with their sneaky little method of creating the idea of a problem without acknowledging it, that that's what they're doing as part of their plot, their evil plot, okay? And then they present the solution, and then we accept it, and we think it's the solution to a problem that didn't really exist in the first place until it was fakely created. And then their agenda gets pushed forward. Standard tactics of mass manipulation. A mechanical mismatch problem. I wasn't aware of that. How about this one? An authentication problem. Did you know that we haven't had a problem all along here of not being able to authenticate ourselves wherever we go? Did you know that was been a problem? An ongoing thing. Did you know that? Because she just provided the solution for that one too. Because this solution for the mechanical mismatch also serves to authenticate you. So it's an authentication thing. Well, it turns your whole body into an authentication device. Authentication were you aware that was a problem, that was a problem that needed to be solved? That all this while, I mean, ever since, I don't know, maybe the days of Jesus, or I don't know, all along here, maybe for the last 13,000 years, we've been waiting for someone to solve that problem. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Maybe I've just been out of the loop. Anyway, there's a solution at hand. It also solves another problem. How handy. The mechanical mismatch problem. Authentication. The heck is that? Authentication. That might appeal to teenagers too, they, with their little electronic gadgets. Things have to be authenticated, like new software. You have to authenticate it, or you have to activate a new credit card. And, it's kind of that techie terminology kind of thing. It kind of goes along with the idea of, I don't know, it has the same flavor as electronic tattoo does. And what does this capsule do? You don't have to get the tattoo if you don't want it. You can go on the pill. Remember, she said there's a pill too. And now that's like more thorough going at this point. You swallow a pill and your whole body, not just this little transmitter and receiver trinket, well, that is these tattoo, for God's sakes. How fake, how phony to think that such a thing is a tattoo, or it even has anything to do with a tattoo. I don't know, I guess you can get it in a variety of shapes and sizes and colors. Look, Mom, I got an electronic tattoo. Instead of one of those little, removable ones, that you get at the fairgrounds, for your little kid. Well, now they can go rebel. Now that they're about 10 years older, they can go rebel and get their electronic version of the damn thing. Which, even if removed, will leave something in you. You can bet on that. But you don't have to get that. You can just take the pill. You can go on the pill. The authentication pill. It's not as fancy, though, as having the tattoo. No. Visibly. But what do you get with it? A superpower. Whoa! Whoa, who wouldn't want one of those? What teenager can go without one? I mean, once Tiffany has one, Sabrina has to get one, right? And then Andrew has to get one, and so does Josh. And Mark and Luke and John to go with it. And sister 2. A superpower. Why, the woman said that the thing emits light. Well, that's marvelous, right? So does our DNA. One of the functions of DNA is to receive and transmit light. Did you know that? Well, it's true. So now we have this thing in us that's transmitting, going around transmitting, and it's emitting light. What the hell is it doing to our DNA? Right? What is it doing to our DNA? Isn't that going to be one of its chief core functions? It's a push toward the transhumanist agenda, toward this idea of being superhuman or transhuman. So how do they introduce that? Appeal to teenagers' desires and fantasies to have superpowers. And then the woman says, I want that. I want that. Planting that phrase along with these ideas into the audience's mind. I want that. She said that. I want that. I have to have that. I get my first superpower. Not just the one and only superpower, the first one. There are more to come, folks. There are more to come. Well, this solves problems that we didn't even have, doesn't it? Generally, whenever that course of action is followed, what we end up with is a slew of problems that we did not want as people, but which we accept. And next thing you know, we're swallowing the next piece of garbage because our brainwaves are getting more and more polluted, and we can't think for ourselves anymore, and we can't even see at many points, that something that was proposed as a solution to a problem was proposed to be a solution to a problem that didn't even exist. Every one of these steps takes a larger leap, takes a larger toll than the one before on how our brains function, how our DNA operates, what we are as humans, and so forth, and what we are capable of doing to block this invasion of our consciousness and our humanity. Why do I say elsewhere here then, it might soon be too late? I don't need to answer that directly here right now, do I? I think I'm doing it anyway. And now, on to that sound at World Trade Center 1, the new structure, where the Twin Towers fell some years ago, 9/11 incident. Another contrived circumstance, another form of creating a problem and not admitting to it. In this case, a solution was offered in the form of a war on terror. And, of course, the public, the American public, were all behind it. Go get those bastards. Go get them. They invaded us. They hit us hard. They hit us hard. They hit us hard. You got to go get them. Got to help us. We're dependent on it. We're dependent on you, government. We got to go get them. You better do something, right? And the government is there. We know who it was. We know who it was, and we're not going to stand for it. we're American people, we're strong. That's right, we're going to get them. We're going to go get them, buddy. You bet you we're going to go get them. They attacked us on our soil. They attacked us on our soil. And we're going to have to make some sacrifices, you know. I mean, we're going to have to sacrifice some freedom now. I mean, for security. Because, you know, these bastards over here who did this to us, they are haters of freedom. Well, we're going to have to give up a little bit of it. You know, we're going to have to sacrifice for security now because, you know, we have to protect our security against people who hate freedom, you know. Blah, 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 blah. All contrived in the first place, an event that was allowed to happen and was a controlled demolition. Yeah, planes ran into the World Trade Center towers, yeah. But it was a controlled demolition. Now, that doesn't prove that it was American government people who did it, or people working for them or in cahoots with them. Other things do. But they didn't fall as a result of being hit by airplanes. And the fact is, it was allowed to happen. There were so many safety measures, safeguards, against such a thing happening at so many points. If you know the story, if you know the details, you'll know that the only way that happened is that it was allowed to happen by Americans. Not your average everyday American, not you and I. All right? But it was an inside job when it comes right down to it. Okay, so a problem was created. The perpetrators of it didn't own up to it. Then they propose a solution, and the public at the same time demands it. We go flying over there to the Middle East, right? Invade, and so forth. And then there's this runaround. Well, we can't find him. Well, we can't find him. Maybe he's over here, maybe he's over there, maybe he's over here, maybe he's over there. Get everything, all the ducks in a row now for the big deal. Well, it wasn't good enough to have a so-called invasion on our soil. It wasn't good enough to destroy America's image. And it wasn't good enough to just introduce the Patriot Act. One of the major consequences or, agendas in line was, to get control over people. Get greater control over American people. Invade their privacy. Talk about haters of freedom. Patriot Act. Proposed under the rationalization of we have to sacrifice some freedom for security. Because these haters of freedom, you get the nonsense of this stuff. So we've got that now, right? And then Patriot Act number 2, which, as far as I know, pretty much says Patriot Act number 1 is permanent now. It has just led to a snowball effect of more stuff just like it. To the point where we're just used to that now. In a short amount of time, we've just become used to that. Oh, well, but that wasn't enough. That didn't destroy the American image in the face of the world completely. So, while we're over there in the Middle East, let's throw in another game. Let's create another problem. And then offer the solution to that. Those people over the hill over there, they have weapons of mass destruction. So we have to go over there now, too. And while we're over there, let's just rape, pillage, plunder, torture, break every rule of war, as though there are such legitimate things, but there are. Just break every rule, destroy the United States image in the face of the entire world. And all comes down to lies. Now, what am I getting at? Meanwhile, while employing these tactics and perpetrating these crimes and engaging in all of this deception and evil and getting other people to fall into step with it, meanwhile, they're over here at the original site of the World Trade Center towers that fell, right? building a new structure that now is emitting that sound that you heard at the beginning of this video. Apparently, I have to look into this further. I don't know what that is. But apparently, people in New York hear it. People nearby hear it. It's heard, I don't know, up to maybe a couple blocks away from what I could gather there. But they don't know what it is. They don't know what the sound is. They don't know exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from somewhere having to do with that structure. And the structure, I got to tell you, just looking at it, its shape, the tower at the top of it and so forth, the antenna thing, it has an ominous appearance to it. It looks like something that grew out of death and stands for death. Anyway, that aside, that's just a subjective thing. If people don't know what that sound is, then that means they're not being told. That means that it's kind of a secret, and that's not good. Now, did you hear the nature of that sound? It was eerie and it was haunting. It sounded a little otherworldly, if you ask me. It definitely did not sound wholesome at all. It was disturbing. And what is it doing coming from that building? where this whole damn thing took place some years ago. You know what that sound sounded like to me? It sounded like another one I've heard lately. I heard a recording of a sound emanating from the planet Saturn. It was recorded by that spacecraft that we sent out there past Saturn to take close-up photos. I forget what it's called. Voyager, maybe? There was a sound emanating from the planet Saturn. And it sounds, as far as I remember, very much like that sound coming from that World Trade Center building now. Some kind of a very strong frequency transmission. Saturn now being the planet, one of the planet in our solar system, one of the main planet, as far as I know, given this side of occultism that I don't know a lot about. I know quite a bit more about some other phases of the topic of occultism, but from what I know of this side of things, Saturn is one of the main planets, if not the central planet, at the core of what's called Satanism, or Satan worship. Saturn and Satan being very close terms with one another, and I think the word Satan evolved out of Saturn worship. Saturn worship being worship of what's called the dark sun, and even in alchemy, Saturn is known as I recall, the heavy planet, the planet having to do with the dross of life, the darkest things in life, the heavy weight upon us. And there is this sound, very much like the one you heard at the beginning of this video, emanating from that entire planet, like some kind of transmission going on in the solar system at a frequency, very much associated with what might be called Saturnism or Satanism. And now we have, where the Twin Towers fell, a very similar, very closely related sound, according to what I could hear, emanating from the building that replaces the ones that fell. Interesting now, wouldn't it be? That emanation might have something to do in some way, or maybe transmissions from the antenna at the top of that structure, and part of the information being sent out with that sound, that auditory emanation from that building might have something to do with the receivers in the pill and the electronic tattoo. I don't know. It's just an afterthought here. Wouldn't surprise me. Of course, many birds will be getting killed with one stone. That might be just one little thing going on, but it's just an attempt to make a connection between these two things that are the focus of this video here. That building in New York City and the solution to those problems. Of course, the mechanical mismatch problem and the authentication problem. Yeah. Why do I say it might soon be too late? Just might be soon too late. Not a statement of certainty, not an alarmist statement, not a pessimistic statement, an observation. Why do I say that? Elsewhere, on my channel here, like I said a little bit ago, I don't think I have to answer that question in words, so to speak, directly, because I'm answering it with this whole video.